In 1953, America removed the most popular leader in the Middle East. Not with bombs, not with soldiers, with money and a phone call. What followed was not just a political event, it was the wound that never healed. Every war in the Middle East, every nuclear standoff, every hostage crisis traces back to one decision. This is the story of oil, empire, democracy, and revenge. Before we talk about destruction, we must understand what was destroyed. Persia is one of the oldest civilizations in human history at over 3,000 years of unbroken culture. Persian poets, mathematicians, and philosophers shaped the entire ancient world. The Silk Road passed through Iran, making it the trading heart of the known world. By the early 20th century, something was discovered beneath that ancient soil. Oil. Oceans of it. Among the largest reserves ever found on Earth. Suddenly, every empire on the planet had its eyes on Iran. Britain moved first. The Anglo-Iranian oil company was established, and Iran saw almost nothing from its own wealth. Iranian workers labored in the heat while profits sailed to London. The Iranian people grew poorer as their land grew more valuable. For decades they endured it. But anger was building like pressure in a pipe. Then, in 1951, a man emerged who dared to say what every Iranian was thinking. Mohammad Mossadegh, educated in Europe, devoted to Iran, elected by his people. He was not a revolutionary, he was not a cleric, he was a Democrat. His proposal was straightforward, nationalize the oil. Let Iran keep its own wealth. The Iranian parliament voted overwhelmingly in his favor. The people danced in the streets. In London, the reaction was not celebration. It was fury. The Anglo-Iranian oil company stood to lose everything, billions in future profits. Britain immediately imposed a global embargo on Iranian oil. No country was allowed to buy it. They froze Iranian assets. They threatened war. But Mossadegh did not blink. Britain took their case to the United Nations and the International Court. They lost both times. So Britain turned to Washington, to their new and more powerful ally, the United States. Their message was simple. Mossadegh is a communist. Iran will fall to the Soviet Union. It was a lie. Mossadegh had no ties to Moscow. He simply wanted Iran's oil to belong to Iran. But the Cold War had made Washington paranoid. And paranoid empires make catastrophic decisions. President Eisenhower approved the operation. The CIA was given the green light. The operation had a name, Ajax, a reference to the ancient Greek warrior who destroys everything around him. CIA agent Kermit Roosevelt Jr., grandson of President Theodore Roosevelt, flew secretly into Tehran. His mission, bribe, destabilize, and destroy a democratically elected government. Iranian newspaper editors were paid to publish anti-Mossadegh propaganda. Religious figures were paid to declare him an enemy of Islam. Paid mobs were sent into the streets to riot. The world would be told it was the Iranian people rejecting Mossadegh. On August 19, 1953, the operation reached its climax. Iranian military officers, being bribed by CIA money, moved against Mossadegh. His home was surrounded. His guards were overwhelmed. His government was finished in hours. Mossadegh was arrested in his pajamas, dragged out of the house he had spent his life building Iran from. He was put on trial for treason in his own country, for wanting his country's oil. He defended himself with dignity. His words were recorded but ignored. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, followed by house arrest for the rest of his life. He died under house arrest in 1967, never pardoned, never free. In his place, the Shah was installed, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The Shah knew who had put him on the throne, and he governed accordingly. Iran's oil concessions were restructured. American oil companies now received 40% of the profits. The coup cost the CIA approximately $2 million. The oil profits returned were worth hundreds of billions. In 2013, the CIA officially admitted it had orchestrated the coup. It took them 60 years to say it. Mossadegh is remembered in Iran the way Nelson Mandela is remembered in South Africa, a man who was right, punished for being right, by the most powerful nations on earth. Iran never forgot, and the rage that was planted in 1953 would take 26 years to explode. On the surface, the Shah's Iran looked modern. Skyscrapers, universities, a growing economy. He launched the White Revolution, land reforms, women's rights, Western-style modernization. America celebrated him. Time magazine called him a great modernizer. But beneath the surface, something very dark was happening. The Savak, the Shah's secret police man, was trained by the CIA and Israel's Mossad. Tens of thousands of Iranians were arrested. Many were tortured. Some disappeared forever. Religious scholars, intellectuals, students, labor organizers, anyone who questioned the Shah was a target. The Shah spent Iran's oil wealth on weapons, becoming the fifth largest military in the world. Meanwhile, ordinary Iranians saw little of the oil money that flowed through their land. The Shah threw lavish parties at Persepolis, celebrating 2,500 years of Persian monarchy. The bill was hundreds of millions of dollars. The country watched while people went hungry. America continued to sell him weapons, continued to praise him, continued to look away. By the mid-1970s, the mosques had become the only safe place to organize resistance. Ayatollah Khomeini, exiled in Paris, was sending cassette tapes of sermons into Iran. His message reached millions. The Shah's regime had created the very monster it feared. By 1978, Iran was a pressure cooker, and it was about to blow. In 1978, protests erupted across every major Iranian city simultaneously. Millions of Iranians, religious and secular, rich and poor, united in one demand: the Shah must go. The Shah's army fired on protesters. It only made the movement stronger. In January 1979, the Shah boarded a plane and left Iran forever. He would die in exile just 18 months later, rejected by country after country. On February 1st, 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini landed in Tehran. 5 million people came to see him. Iran became an Islamic republic. The direction of the country reversed overnight. Women were required to wear the hijab. Western music was banned. Alcohol was prohibited. Many secular Iranians who had supported the revolution felt betrayed almost immediately. Khomeini's government executed thousands of political opponents in the first 2 years. Many of the very revolutionaries who had fought the Shah were now imprisoned by Khomeini. Then came the event that would define U.S.-Iran relations for the next half-century. November 4th, 1979. Iranian students stormed the U.S. embassy and took 52 diplomats hostage. Their justification: America had let the Shah into the U.S. for medical treatment. They feared a repeat coup. The hostages were held for 444 days. America tried and failed to rescue them militarily. They were only released the moment Ronald Reagan was sworn in, a timing that has fueled conspiracy theories ever since. After the revolution, Iran was isolated, sanctioned, surrounded by enemies. Iraq, backed by the United States, invaded Iran in 1980. The Iran-Iraq War lasted 8 years and killed over 1 million people. America provided Iraq with satellite intelligence and looked away when Saddam used chemical weapons on Iranians. Iran looked at this and drew one conclusion: the only way to never be invaded again was nuclear deterrence. Iran's nuclear program began in earnest in the 1980s, originally with Western help under the Shah. The West had given Iran nuclear technology. Now they were terrified of what Iran would do with it. By the 2000s, Iran had enriched enough uranium to become a threshold nuclear state. Israel began warning the world. Iran was months away from a bomb. Year after year, for 20 years. The US and EU imposed crushing sanctions. Cutting Iran off from the global banking system, Iran's economy contracted sharply. Unemployment soared. The middle class was hollowed out. But the nuclear program did not stop. If anything, the sanctions made Iran more determined. In 2015, after years of secret negotiations, the JCPOA, the nuclear deal, was signed. Iran would limit enrichment and allow inspectors. In return, sanctions would be lifted. For a brief window, Iranian streets felt different. Hope is a powerful thing. That window lasted exactly 3 years. While diplomats negotiated, Iran was building something else entirely: an empire of influence. Hezbollah in Lebanon, trained, funded, and armed by Iran since 1982. Hezbollah grew from a militia into a political party with an army more powerful than Lebanon's own military. Hamas in Gaza, Iran provided money and weapons, even though Hamas is Sunni and Iran is Shia. In Iraq, after America's 2003 invasion created a power vacuum, Iran moved in. Iranian-backed militias now operate openly in Iraq, sometimes more powerful than the Iraqi state itself. In Syria, when Assad was losing his civil war, Iran saved his regime. Iranian troops and Hezbollah fighters fought on Syrian soil. Thousands died. Assad survived. In Yemen, the Houthis, backed by Iran, have fought a 9-year war against Saudi Arabia. Houthi missiles and drones have struck Saudi cities and disrupted global shipping lanes. Iran's strategy is called strategic depth. If your enemies must fight fires everywhere, they cannot attack you. America spent trillions fighting wars in the Middle East. Iran spent billions and got more influence. Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the US all tried to contain Iran's expansion. All failed. The more isolated Iran became, the more it invested in proxies as its foreign policy. Today, Iran commands what analysts call the axis of resistance, a network stretching from Tehran to the Mediterranean. It was built on decades of being told it had no place at the table. Let us talk about what sanctions actually do, because it is rarely what politicians claim. The theory is simple. Make life hard enough for the population, and they will overthrow their government. In practice, sanctions have never once successfully changed the behavior of a government that wanted nuclear weapons. North Korea has been sanctioned for 70 years. It now has nuclear weapons and missiles that can reach America. What sanctions reliably do is destroy the middle class of the targeted country. Iran's rial has lost over 90% of its value since sanctions were reimposed in 2018. Medicines became scarce. Cancer patients could not get treatments. Children suffered. The Revolutionary Guard, the hardliners, actually grew stronger under sanctions through black market trade. Ordinary Iranians were punished. The regime was not. Meanwhile, the countries enforcing sanctions found workarounds for their own interests. European companies quietly continued doing business with Iran through intermediaries for years. China became Iran's largest trading partner, buying Iranian oil at heavy discounts. Iran found ways to sell its oil through ghost tankers, ships that turn off their tracking signals. The economic warfare created a shadow economy that made Iran more resourceful, not less dangerous. Every sanction tightened the grip of hardliners in Tehran who said, "See, the West will never accept us." The policy designed to weaken Iran may have done more to entrench the very government it sought to remove. Today, Iran stands at the most dangerous crossroads in its modern history. Its nuclear program is at 60% enrichment, a short technical step from weapons grade. It has aligned itself firmly with Russia and China, the architecture of a new world order, against the West. Its proxies fought a war against Israel in 2023 and 2024 that drew in the entire region. Inside Iran, a generation of young people has risen up, risking death to protest the regime woman. Life. Freedom. 3 words that shook the Islamic Republic to its core. The regime survived, but the legitimacy it once had among its own people has never been lower. America and Iran have come closer to direct war multiple times in recent years than the public realizes. In January 2020, America assassinated Iran's most powerful general, Qasem Soleimani, in a drone strike. Iran fired ballistic missiles at American bases in Iraq in retaliation, the first direct Iranian attack on U.S. forces. Both sides quietly stepped back, but the line had been crossed. Every crisis you see in the Middle East today, every war, every refugee, every failed state, has a thread. That thread leads back to a summer morning in Tehran when a democracy was stolen for oil. If Mossadegh had been allowed to govern, if Iran had kept its oil wealth, who would Iran be today? We will never know, but Iran remembers. Every policy, every sanction, every missile is shaped by that memory. Wealth history, where the past explains everything you see today.